Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to conduct the virtual lab for MB3 test 3, which is the specific gravity and water absorption of fine aggregate. For that you need to open the Word file that contains all the virtual lab link. You can get this file from Spectrum. As usual, all you have to do is click on the link or copy paste it. So for now I'm just going to copy paste the link. Okay, it has redirected to the virtual lab page. Make sure you have clicked on the correct link. You should be able to see this specific gravity of fine aggregate. Anyway, I hope that you've already noticed the difference between this title and also the title provided in the lab manual. If you haven't, then let me just point it out for you. In here, it is only written as specific gravity of fine aggregate. But then if you have a look at the lab manual, it is written here as specific gravity and water absorption of fine aggregate. So that means the testing conducted in the virtual lab is only partially similar to the one conducted in our physical lab. Let's say the testing is divided into 3 parts, part 1, part 2 and part 3. Only part 2 is conducted in the virtual lab. The balance part 1 and part 3 are not available in the virtual lab. But don't worry, before I end this video, I will definitely give you a rundown on the whole process. So now let's go back to the virtual lab page. Okay. So before we have a look at how the simulator works, it is important for you to know the significance of this test. What is specific gravity? Specific gravity is also known as relative density. The specific gravity of fine aggregate is the ratio of the weight of given volume of fine aggregates to the weight of equal volume of water. In other words, specific gravity of fine aggregates can also be defined as the ratio of density of fine aggregates to the density of water. So what is the use of specific gravity in civil engineering? Basically, when we do our mixed design, usually the calculation will be based on volume. So for you to convert the volume to weight, you need to use specific gravity. So I'll leave the theory part to you. Please read it on your own. Now let's move on to the simulator. Okay, so the objective of this test is to determine the specific gravity of fine aggregate using pycnometer. So this is the setup of the apparatus. You need a pycnometer, a weighing scale and also a glass rod. Okay, we are using reverse sine for this experiment. Click next. First of all, you need to get the empty weight of the pycnometer. Okay, please take note of the value. Next. Okay, remove the cover and then you need to fill 1/3 of the pycnometer with the reverse sine. In our lab, we'll be using 500 grams of the sine. So I think more or less the value is the same. Okay, get the value. Next, remove the cover and then you need to fill it with water. Okay, seal it back and then get the weight. Okay, now remove the cover and now fill it with only water. Okay, cover back and then get the weight. Okay, so this is actually quite easy. Just click here and then click next. But then for this test, it is important for you to have a calculator. Why? You need to get the actual specific gravity and then enter the value for you to check. I'm just going to use a random value. Okay, not here. 2.7, check. Okay, so you can see the percentage error and all that, but make sure you calculate on your own. Don't enter a random value like me. Okay, but then make sure you record the data and then tabulate it. There's about 4 trials for this specific test. Make sure all the group members take part in all the 4 trials. Okay, before we discuss the discussion question, let's go back to the lab manual so that I can give you a rundown as I promised earlier. Okay, so just now I said the testing is divided into 3 parts, right? Part 1, part 2 and part 3. So the part 1 is called as cone test. Cone test is carried out to ensure the river sand is in SSD condition. What is SSD condition? The full term of SSD is saturated surface dry. So that means the sand particles, the surface should be dry, but then inside it should be saturated with water. You need to ensure that using the cone test. So this is part 1. Only after you ensure the sand is SSD condition, you can move on to part 2. Part 2 is exactly the same as what you conducted in your virtual lab just now. You need to get the pycnometer, empty weight of pycnometer, and then weight of pycnometer with 500 grams of sand, and then the same setting with water, and then pycnometer with only water. So it's exactly the same. Second part is the same as your virtual lab. And then the third part, all you have to do is you need to get the sample out from the pycnometer, and then you need to put it in oven for 24 hours at 110 degrees Celsius. So the next day you need to get the oven dried weight of the sample. So that's the complete process of this experiment. So now the main problem arises at the tabulation part. Let's go to the data tabulation part. Okay, if you have a look at this, there's several columns here starting from weight of oven dry specimen. Oh, you don't have the data for this. So what I suggest you to do is you may ask your friends, those who have already completed this lab. They have the value. You can share it with them. I don't mind. So only for this, okay, for this oven dry. Okay, A, pycnometer filled with water. Okay, you have this value. And then weight of pycnometer with specimen. Okay, you have this value as well. Weight of saturated. Okay, you have this value as well. Okay, so the only value you're going to get from your classmates will be this. Okay, because without this you can't get the bulk specific gravity for oven dry specimen. You can get the apparent bulk specific gravity as well. Oh, and also water absorption. So to get all this value you need this. So only for this I allow you to get the value from your friends. Okay, now we are done with the data. Let's go to the discussion part. So you have about 6 discussion questions in your lab manual, starting from significance till minimization of errors. Let me check. Okay, so I want you to answer all these 6 questions. So I also have some add-on questions for you. Apart from these 6 questions, you need to go back to the virtual lab page. If you go up here, you can find assignment questions. So there were 6 right just now. Okay, you need to answer this 2 also. So 6, 7, 8, and I also have 1 bonus question for you. Okay, so question number 9 will be compare both the methods used in virtual and physical laboratory and include a discussion regarding it. So what is the difference between the virtual and physical lab? So like I explained just now, physical lab is a long process, right? Starting from step 1, part 1 till part 3, right? So but then in virtual lab it's only about part 2. So you need to compare both, and then you need to give a discussion. I think from what I discussed earlier, you can almost draw out a very rough discussion. So I leave it up to you what you want to discuss about. As long as the discussion is it has a valid point, then I'll accept it. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Let me give you a recap on what you have to do. So you need to start from introduction. Your report should contain, starting from introduction, this is the normal report, introduction, then you have your apparatus, material, procedure, until your conclusion. Only for the data part, you need to get the hour and right value from your friends. And then your discussion questions, you have 6 from the lab manual, 2 questions from the virtual lab page, and also 1 question from me. I think that's all for this lab. Thank you for listening.